So once I started incorporating 10,000 steps a day, not only did I notice that I lost the 30 pounds that I had gained when I was really struggling with my PCOS symptoms, I noticed weight loss, I noticed a toning of my abs, my butt, my legs, my mental health improved. I also felt like I didn't have to be as restrictive with my diet because I was getting so many steps in on a consistent basis every single day. You want to start walking at 10,000 steps a day. I love this goal for you, so you've made it to the right video, because not only am I going to be sharing with you my journey of walking at 10,000 steps a day, which I've now upped to 18,000 steps a day, but I also wanted to go over 10 things that I wish I knew sooner, 10 things that I don't feel like are as talked about when it comes to having a goal of 10,000 daily steps. And in this video, I'll be answering some of your most common questions that I get whenever I share about my walking journey. I've spoken a lot about getting diagnosed with adrenal PCOS in 2022, and while I was someone who have always enjoyed walks, you know, walking outside, the occasional hike, I did have a dog who was a very active breed, so it was always nice to be able to take her on a couple walks during the day. It wasn't until the diagnosis that I really started to change up my entire fitness routine and really started to swap a lot of other fitness activities that I was doing in exchange for solely walking. So once I started incorporating 10,000 steps a day, not only did I notice that I lost the 30 pounds that I had gained when I was really struggling with my PCOS symptoms. So I noticed weight loss, I noticed a toning of my abs, my butt, my legs, my mental health improved. I also felt like I didn't have to be as restrictive with my diet because I was getting so many steps in on a consistent basis every single day. I no longer feel like I have to be as careful with what it is that I eat. As always, I try to eat a balanced diet as best as I can, but I have noticed a definite change in my body with using walking as my cardio and as my low impact workout. So I wanted to share with you 10 things that I either wish that I knew sooner, 10 things that I don't think are talked about as much. And you know, one of the first things that I want to share about is that when I started to consistently start to hit that 10,000 steps every single day, I was in pain. I am someone who works from home, so I am oftentimes sitting at home and sitting at my desk. And like I said, I was someone who enjoyed the occasional walk, you know, would walk my dog and those sort of things. But for the most part of my day, I was sedentary. I would sit at my desk, you know, I always try to notice my posture and things like that. But especially with not moving my body in the way that you do when walking, again, going to the gym, incorporating a yoga or a Pilates workout, you know, I think was so great. But there is a difference when you start walking and you walk that much on a regular basis. I started to wake up in the middle of the night and have pain in my feet. Like, it was almost like I could feel the muscles like curling in on themselves on the bottom of my feet. And I would wake up and be like, why do my feet hurt this badly? My ankles would hurt, my calves were always on fire. And I very quickly realized into my walking journey that I needed to have the proper shoes. And a lot of times at the time that I first started, I was just walking in like the flat soled Converse sneakers, and those were not it. One of the first things that I did as I started to look into what are some of the best shoes that I could get was I got the Dr. Scholl's inserts, and these immediately made such a big difference for me. Immediately I could tell a difference. So I just put them into my regular shoes until I started to upgrade my shoes. The first pair that I bought that I really loved were these New Balances. I will have any links that I can in my description box, but this is also one of the most asked questions that I get when people share with me that they are starting to go on a walking journey as well and trying to have a daily step count goal is, what shoes do I wear? So I really love ones from New Balance, and I also really love ones from Nike. The ones from Nike are what I'm currently wearing. I wore my New Balances for probably over 2 years before I was like, okay, I need to replace these. To me, I feel like that's a long time. I know shoes are expensive, especially a good walking shoe or running shoe. I know that they can get pretty pricey, but for me, especially, I would wear them every single day. To have them for that long, I felt like I got a lot of use out of them. Dr. Scholl's inserts, if that is something that you just want a quick and easy fix right now, something that you can just add into your shoes as you've put the step count goal like on your list, on your vision board, on your goal tracker, the Dr. Scholl's inserts were super helpful, or New Balance or Nike. And I will list, if I can still list my exact ones. I know sometimes when I look for the New Balance, I can't find the exact ones since they were I was gonna say an older model, but a little bit older, but I will link any that I can find that are as close to it as I can. There was a couple other things too, mentioning being in pain. Like I would take just a tennis ball and I would rub it back and forth on the bottom of my foot. I also invested in a massage gun, like the Theragun. That to me was so important. Just also though, just stretching. Stretching was something that I feel kind of bad about saying that I wasn't getting into a good stretching routine because I'm someone with a yoga background. And so I was like, how are you not stretching on the regular? Like, you know how important that is. You know how important a warm up and a cool down is. But I was not, to me, when I started my walking journey, I wasn't signifying a long walk as a workout. And that was a mindset shift that I had to understand. And I think when I tell people, when people ask me, what is your workout routine? How do you have the abs? How can you eat, you know, what you show that you eat online and social media, but still have the body like you do? Like, what workout routine do you have? And I say, I just walk. People are like, okay, but then what else? Like, when do you go to the gym? Like, do you do Pilates? Do you lift weights? And I'm like, no, I truly just walk. You know, sometimes it's fun to pop into like a Pilates class with a friend, but for me, my workout routine is walking, and I needed to start to look at that as that is my workout routine. That is my workout. For the longest time, I just had this mindset of like, I'm just going for a little walk. No, I need to have the proper shoes. Just like if you were gonna be, you know, weightlifting at the gym, like what is the proper shoes that you need to be wearing? Do you need like, you know, something like accessories, like the weight belt? Same thing when it came to walking. Also, you know, like I said, stretching, the cool down, the warm up, that is something that you do when you go to a workout class. I needed to be doing the same thing when I was getting into walking because I was feeling the pain, especially again, my feet, my ankles, my calves. So the Theragun is something that I use on a pretty regular basis. Sometimes I even use it every single day, especially on my legs. My calves can get especially tight, and I try to make sure that I'm stretching either before, after, or both when I go on my longer walks. Number two that I want to talk about is understanding how much time it takes to walk this long. That is another one of my like most common questions I get whenever I post like my step count that I've gotten that day or how many miles I've walked that day. I always get the question of how long did that take you? And for me, I also get asked a lot what I do to track my steps. I have an Android and it came with a pedometer app, and that is what I use. And you can turn it on and off. So for me, I try to have it on when I'm just doing my walks and not necessarily having it on just while I'm doing my day to day. Some people prefer it differently and track your whole steps throughout your day, which is great. For me, I kind of want to know my steps when I'm intentionally walking and like intentionally walking as my workout. So that way I can turn it on and off. Sometimes I do forget to either turn it off or turn it on. Like the other day I was halfway through my morning walk and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't turn my pedometer on. So I knew that I'd missed, you know, a lot of steps that way, which was a bummer, but that is what I use on my phone. But I know there's a lot of different watches that help you track. There's different apps that can help you track as well. For me, I use the pedometer, but what I like is when I do share this, you can actually see the time on there. Like it will tell you like how much time it took you to walk this many steps, and it will also tell you how many miles as well. But for me, my routine is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I want to do is get outside on my walk. That is really important to me. Again, I work from home, I'm an entrepreneur, and once I start working, I'm pretty much in it till the end of the day, right? I wear a lot of different hats, I run a lot of different things, and so once I get started, I'm sucked into emails, to editing, whatever it is that I need to be doing. So I know for me, the one thing that I can do in the morning is I can get up and I can go on my walk. So I get up, I tongue scrape, I brush my teeth, I do just a little bit of skincare. It's mostly just applying SPF. I change, you know, put my sports bra on, my hat on, and I get out the door. And for me, now I live in Las Vegas. So right now, especially I'm filming this at the end of June, it is incredibly hot. It gets to be 110 plus in the afternoon. So for me, I want to walk usually before the sun is up. So I typically try to get up around 4:30, 5 a.m. so I can get a decent chunk of my walk done before the sun is up and before it gets too hot. When we go into the winter months and it doesn't get that hot as fast, you know, I don't have to be up as early, but that is something that's really important to me as well. So for my routine, I get up and I try to walk 10,000 steps in my morning walk, and it usually takes me an hour and a half. That is a very long time, but for me, that is my time. And that was another thing that I had to do when I was really getting into my routine of walking was understanding that like now this is me time. The same way that people go to the gym. You know, I have so many people who love going to the gym, who work with trainers, who have their classes that they go to every single day and they love it and it's their time for them and to be working on themselves. I think of my walks in the same way. So that is an hour and a half that I get to spend for myself. Now, of course, I can also always be working. A lot of times I'm editing my videos out there as well, responding to comments, responding to DMs, but I'm also loving being outside in nature, getting a walk done. Sometimes I'm catching up with my friends, listening to podcasts, different things like that, but it takes a very long time. So again, for me, 10,000 steps usually equals around an hour and a half. I'm not someone who walks particularly fast either. I also get asked a lot, am I a speed walker? No. I walk at a pretty leisurely pace, to be honest with you. So maybe 10,000 steps I could get a little bit quicker if I walked at a more brisk pace, but I have found that that doesn't need to be the case for me. I can walk at a normal pace and I still have gotten the results that I've gotten today after doing this consistently for the last 3 years. I also try to walk every time after I eat. So I try to get an afternoon walk. Now it's pretty much finito in Las Vegas until it cools down again, but then I also try to walk in the evening. One thing that I think is important with talking about how much time it takes to walk is if you are doing it all in one go, to plan your route, because there's definitely times, especially again now that it's super hot, I always take a really big water bottle with me. Like before I would always take, you know, water or something to drink or chia seeds or something on my walk, but now I take the really big water bottle with me, and as I'm drinking it, there's a lot of times where I do have to stop and go to the restroom. So planning your route I think is very important, especially if you're going to be walking an hour and a half at a time and that you might need to use the restroom. So I think that's important. And that also kind of brings me over into our third point, which is protection. And for protection, I have a couple different things written down. One of them being sun protection. I think that this is really important. You know, sure, it can definitely vary depending on what climate you are in. I live in the desert. It's very hot here. The sun comes out very early. Sunscreen is so important. Sunscreen is one of my best friends, so I always make sure to have my sunscreen on, not only my face, but my body, because you will get burned in places you didn't know were burned. Like your ears, your little pinky toes will get burnt, you'll have like weird lines on your back, you know, all the things if you're like wearing a sports bra. So SPF is so important for the face, your neck, your hands, your whole body. I also always wear a hat when I'm walking. It's typically just a baseball hat, but again, it's protecting my face, protecting my scalp. Your scalp getting burnt is one of the worst things. So anytime I'm out in the sun for a long period of time, I try to have a hat on, a bandana on, something on that is also going to protect my scalp. I am a woman and I do think it's important to be able to protect yourself when you are on walks. One thing that I do is I never go for a walk without someone knowing that I'm going for a walk. Someone always knows that I am out and about, and also my friends know the certain routes that I do, so I can say, like I will text my group chat to say, oh, what's everyone doing today? I'm getting out on a walk over here. So my friends know where I am at. You can also carry something along the lines of, you know, pepper spray if you want to go that route. They make a lot of safety products nowadays for women, especially women who are active and you're on walks. There's little canisters, you can hook them to your belt, different things like that, but always being aware of your surroundings. And when I talked about planning your route, to me, it's also important to switch it up from time to time so you're not doing the exact same route every single day. I do think that is something that's important. And again, for me, I have my different routes that I do, and I think it's important to switch them up. I don't do the same route every single day at the same time. I switch it up. I also think it's important to maybe sometimes grab a friend to come along the walk with you, just because you never know what eyes are on you. And I think that this is something that's very important. You know, especially for me, I talk about hiking. I very rarely will hike alone. I think I've done it a couple times when I had my dog, but she's no longer with me. So I can't remember the last time I've hiked just by myself. You know, something like that, where I'm like actually going off and like to the woods, the desert, you know, anything like that. I will not do that alone as well, but safety is something that we always need to think about. For me, I am someone who prefers to walk outside, and there are a lot of research that has shown the benefits of walking outside, especially how I talked about walking in the morning. I think it's really interesting to look up your circadian rhythm and what that does, not only for your sleep, but what happens when you wake up and you get direct sunlight in your eyes early in the morning, and how that helps set off your circadian rhythm. So then your body knows, okay, this is the time that I'm waking up versus then this is the time that I'm going to sleep. It's something that we hear a lot about when people say like, don't have screen time at night or have blue light at night, because that can mess with your circadian rhythm, which then means your body doesn't know, okay, this is time that I go to sleep now because I have this blue light in my eyes, so I don't know what's going on. So now I'm going to stay awake and now I'm not going to get good quality sleep. So to me, when I started to hear about that a lot, I started to hear people say, oh, walking in the morning and morning sunlight is beneficial for your circadian rhythm. It was something that I took some time out to do a little bit more research on to see what is that exactly about, so that I know. Once I started to see that, one thing that I do is in the morning when I'm walking is I try not to wear my sunglasses right away either, because I try to get that direct sunlight in my eyes before I put on my sunglasses. Now I got light eyes and I can't see in the sun. I get made fun of all of the time on the internet because I so often have my eyes closed in photos, or I look down. It's oftentimes I just can't see. Like the photos of me, I would have my eyes closed anyways. So I just try to do it in a cute way now, because I don't know if it's because my eyes are so light, that's what people tell me, but I have a really hard time seeing in the sun. But you betcha, in the early morning, I'm out there and I am trying so hard to keep my sunglasses off for a little bit so I can set my body up for success, to have a great day, to set off my circadian rhythm in a good way. So I love being able to walk outside. But if you are not able to walk outside, if you don't live in a safe area, if you don't feel comfortable walking outside by yourself, if you know, maybe you're not able to get away from work for that long, there's a bunch, climate, you know, weather, all of those things. For me, a walking pad. If you know me at all, in real life or virtually, you know I love walking pads. You know I love my walking pad. And when I started my journey again, 2022 is when I got diagnosed with adrenal PCOS and I started on my walking journey. One of the initial reasons why I wanted to get a walking pad is because it would get so hot in Vegas, I wasn't able to do my afternoon walks anymore. I also had a dog, so I was much more aware of how hot it was, especially the cement for her paws. So even though at night, like it would cool down, I would be like, it'd be fine for me, but not fine for my dog. And like, I wasn't gonna go walk by myself and leave my dog. That's crazy to me. And then my dog got diagnosed with cancer in May of 2023. And for a while there, we had to, you know, stop our walks altogether. She wasn't able to go far anymore or things like that. But for me, I still wanted to be able to get my steps in. So my walking pad really came in handy for that. What I did was I bought a standing desk, so you can raise it, you can lower it, and I put my walking pad underneath it. That way I could have my laptop out, I could still be working, I could be editing videos, answering emails, whatever I needed to do, and I could do it in a different setup. And that way I could be there with my dog. I could walk when it was really hot. I could walk if it was raining, which isn't very common, but my walking pad, and that is one thing that I really recommend to people, especially if you're on the start of your walking journey and getting outside just feels like a little much, right? It feels a little extra to put on your SPF, your socks, your shoes, maybe change your shirt so you look a little bit more presentable, like just different things. There's so many obstacles that will get in our way of what we want to achieve, right? We can say anything, make up anything so we don't get out there, we don't get those steps. But maybe if you have the walking pad at your apartment, you're like, you know what, I'll go on the walking pad and I'll watch a show for 30 minutes. I'll get on the walking pad and catch up on a few emails for an hour, you know, whatever it may be. And then that way you can kind of get into the routine, you can kind of get into the groove of getting those steps in. So I try to walk outside as much as I can. I love being outside. I love being in nature. I love the direct sunlight in the morning and all of those things. But I think it's great still if you can go to a gym, if you can get something like a walking pad for your house or apartment. It's a perfect way to get those steps in. 6, I wanted to talk about, I mentioned about how I try to walk after I eat. This is something, again, in my PCOS journey that I saw, that walking and moving your body after eating can help improve digestion. And digestion was something I was really struggling with. You know, some of my symptoms with adrenal PCOS was definitely bloating and weight gain and truly not digesting my food. At one point, I started to vomit quite a bit when I would try to eat, and I wasn't digesting my food. Like everything that was coming up, like I was not digesting my food because of my PCOS and not having my symptoms under control at that point. And so when I saw that walking can help with digestion after eating, that is something I really try to make a point of. And sometimes when I eat lunch in the middle of the day and it's really hot in Las Vegas, or I'm still on calls, or I still have emails, or I'm still trying to, you know, I'm still trying to work. I'm still trying to do my job. Like, I work from home, but I still do work from home. And there's some times where I need my computer. I can't just be outside working on my phone. Like, I need something on my computer, that sort of thing. That is when I can definitely utilize the walking pad as well. And even if it's just 30 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the afternoon, just doing something, just walking around the block, anything that you can do to move your body after eating, I think is so important. And I get it, this could be a good way to start that 10,000 step journey is, okay, I had lunch, I'm just gonna walk around the block really quickly. This was something that I did when I worked my traditional job at the hospital. I would go and eat lunch with my friend, and then we would walk around the hospital grounds. It was pretty large, I'm not gonna lie. It took us a little bit of time, but we would go together and we would walk around the hospital grounds. And this was, you know, 10 years ago. I don't even think we just did it because we wanted something to do. We were bored at work and we were together. So ate lunch, went for a walk. So something that you can try to incorporate as well. And to piggyback off of that, walking with friends. Walking with friends. This can be such a great bonding moment. And I tell the story often of me and my mom. And back in high school, I actually, I was young, I was thin, I was active, and I got told I had high cholesterol. And I was like, what? And you know, it's just something that's hereditary in the family, but I took it pretty seriously. I've always been more into health, and when I was told you have high cholesterol, it really scared me. As a 17-year-old girl, I don't think it should have scared me so much of having high cholesterol, but I was like, I need to make some big changes. I bought Pilates DVDs, I bought the Billy Blanks workout. I was like, this is not gonna get to me. I changed up my food. I had a whole list. I can remember printing out a list, and it was like foods that are good for cholesterol, foods that are bad for cholesterol, and I tried to add in the good and take out the bad. Like, I was very serious about it. And also at the time, my mom was wanting to lose some weight. And so we teamed up and we had the idea that we would walk together every night. That is still such a memory that I remember with my mom, because every night, sometimes not every night, but most nights, I looked forward to our walks together. On the weekends, I looked forward to our walks together. I always say that I have a very close relationship with my mom, and I pretty much always have. And I a lot of times I think back to that moment in time where we spent so much time consistently walking with each other every day, checking in on each other every day. She knew all about my friends. She knew all about school. Like, I knew what was going on with her and her work drama and all of those things. Sometimes we would walk down the street and we would get Little Caesars breadsticks, and we would walk home eating the breadsticks, but it didn't matter because we were walking. We were burning those calories that we were eating with the breadsticks, but they are some of my best memories with my mom, is going on these walks. And one thing that I will say is my mom lost the weight. Like, I remember thinking back to that time, there was two things that my mom did differently. Was she stopped drinking soda and she started going on these walks every single day, and she lost the weight. And I remember that. And I remember going to college and having like 2 sodas every single day, and I started to gain weight, and I was like, I need to be like my mom. I need to cut out that soda. And I also started going to the gym, and I started walking on the treadmill. And then I grabbed some of my friends that I started to make in college, and our gym had a track on the top level of the gym. And there was 3 of us. I can remember. It was me, a girl, and a guy. And every night we walked to the track in the gym. We ended up becoming so close, the 3 of us bought a house together, rented a house together. We were young. We rented a house together. But I think it was because of those walks that we did. We got so close to each other. We were like, yeah, we could be roommates. One of my favorite activities to do now, living in Las Vegas, is to grab my friends to go on walks with me. It's such a bonding experience. Maybe it sounds weird, but to me, it's a bonding experience. Hiking. One of my first friends that I became super close with in Las Vegas, one thing that we both loved to do was hike. And we started to go on hikes together, and it became something to look forward to. Oh, this weekend we're gonna go hiking. You know, we would put our hiking backpacks together and we would plan our routes and what we wanted to do. Just a couple weeks ago, I went to Yosemite and did a hike with my partner, and it was so much fun. And we got to hike, we got to see the waterfall, we got to stop and eat our little protein bars. And it was something we talked about for the next several weeks. Anytime we met up with someone and they're like, what's new? We're like, oh, went to Yosemite and did this hike. It was so much fun. I love my solo walks, don't get me wrong. I love to listen to my podcast. I love to video chat my friends. I love to have quiet moments, but I also really enjoy the bonding experience that you can get when you're walking, because you really don't have any other distractions. You don't have a TV. You don't have other people fighting for your attention. As long as you guys are both intentional about keeping your phones in your pockets, or maybe not even bringing your phone, you don't have any distractions. It's just you and whoever else that you're walking with. So grab a buddy. Okay, this next one that I want to talk about, one of the things that I hear so often when I talk about my walking journey or I share how many steps I've taken for the day is I always get someone saying to me, I just don't have the time for it. I don't have the time for it. And I do not disagree that we are all busy. And I understand that I work from home and I have a flexible schedule because I am an entrepreneur. I run my own businesses, so I get to choose if I want to work at 5 o'clock in the morning or if I want to work at 1 p.m. or if I want to work at 9 p.m. So please do not get me wrong here that I understand that about myself. But I will hold your hand when I say this. You will have the time for the things that you prioritize. So if you want to be serious about a fitness goal, a walking goal, a diet goal, a lifestyle goal, a reading goal, whatever goal it is, you need to prioritize it. And I will put some heat on myself here, okay? Because again, I don't want to just be like, I work from home, I work for myself. Of course I get all these steps in a day, so leisure, right? Because it takes me a lot of time. Like I just said, an hour and a half every single morning. There's different things that I could be doing. And for me, I truly am a workaholic. I love working and I could work all of the time. And for me, the walks are like my one little break that I'm able to get from work, right? But for me, when I said I wanted to put some heat on myself, one thing I'm not great at is like staying clutter free. I'm really like, just piles can just appear suddenly. I'm really bad at putting like my clothes away right away, different tasks like that. And I would be better at it. My place would be cleaner. My place would be more organized. My clothes wouldn't be everywhere if that was a priority to me. If I decided, hey, I'm gonna take 30 minutes of my day right now and I'm going to clean my kitchen. I'm gonna organize my mail. I'm gonna do my laundry and put it away. But a lot of times I don't prioritize that, and that is something that I've been really trying to work on myself for a while and try to tell myself, yes, you're not gonna hit those goals if they aren't your priority. And so whenever anyone tells me I just don't have the time for it, I wanna counter that and ask, so what do you have the time for? You know, what else are you putting into place? And again, we all go through things, and maybe you're caring for someone who is sick. You know, for me, when my dog was sick and I was helping her through her cancer battle, yes, I was trying to use my walking pad at home, but I definitely was not hitting my step count as much because I was going through something that was really hard. Maybe you're pregnant right now. You know what I mean? Like maybe you have an injury. There's so many things that can, you know, kind of derail us from our goals. But I really challenge you to look at yourself, and I challenge you, I love tracking. So I really challenge you to pull out some paper and to track your day. I woke up at this time, then write down everything that you did. How long did that take you? Okay, then you go into your morning routine. How long did that take you? What's everything that you did? And then when you've tracked for even just like a week, look back at that and see, during this time, was there any times in there that I could walk? Or even if you're watching this video and you're like, I don't care about a walking goal, but maybe I'm trying to get motivated for something else. What's your other goal? Are you trying to write a book, but you don't have time? Look at what you did for that week, because I'm sure, I really bet you that you're gonna find some time in there that you were mindlessly scrolling. You were doom scrolling. You know, you find those things that you were doing that didn't align with the goals that you want right now and try to slot those in. Whether it be going on a walk, getting your walking pad, writing words, whatever it may be. But track and see, because that again is something that I hear so often. And another thing that I want to say under this one is, for me, when I started walking and incorporating, you know, doing more steps, you know, I started at a 5,000 step count goal, moved to 7,500, moved to 10,000, and so on. And I started to realize how long it was taking me. I do little things that make me look forward to my walks. So like I said, when I do a solo walk, there's pretty much two things that I do. One is listen to podcasts, and two is to video chat with my friends. Me and my friends use an app called Marco Polo. We all got on it during COVID, basically. You can send video chats to each other back and forth. It's not live, you're not like FaceTiming them. You can send a little video chat, send it to them. They can watch it when they have time, send you a video chat back. And all of my friends will tell you that I only chat them when I'm on my walks, because it is something that motivates me to get out there and walk, because I want to see what my friends are up to. What are they doing? What are we talking about? What do we have to catch up on? So my walks are reserved for that time. I do not Marco Polo during the day at home because I'm busy, I'm working. When I'm here, when I'm in my office, when I'm working and filming, that's what I'm doing. I don't have time to video chat with my friends, right? that is also what my walks are for. And then the same thing with podcasts. I only listen to my podcasts when I'm on my walks. Sometimes if I'm on like a flight or like a long car ride or something, like sure, I'll incorporate a podcast. But when I'm at home and I just want to turn something on, I actually try to turn on an audiobook. Like if I'm cleaning, putting laundry away or something. Now that Spotify has audiobooks, that's what I've been trying to do. So I keep my podcast for my walks, and it's like something I look forward to because I listen to a lot of, you know, motivational personal growth podcasts, and I always like to see what's going on. I listen to a sports podcast. That's one that I listen to in current time. I love sports. So I'm like, oh, okay, what do they think about the NBA finals, that sort of thing. But I look forward to those walks because I have those moments. And I've had other people say like, you know, I go to the gym and go on the Stairmaster, but that's when I watch my show. I watch, you know, my favorite reality show is on at this time, so I go to the gym so I can turn the TV on to watch that show. Have something that you look forward to on your walks, and it will give you more motivation to get out there. To me, walking greatly improved my mental health. Not only being outside, you know, the circadian rhythm, having actual quality me time, I think that was something that was really important to me. Having that time to be able to relax, to listen to a podcast, to catch up with my friends, so I didn't feel like I was always behind and like scrambling to try to catch up with people while I was at home, while I was at work. Like, my walks are such a breath of fresh air. And for me, I'm not going to say that it happened overnight, that I instantly became obsessed with walking, because also, like I said, this has been a 3-year journey. I sometimes can get a little bit frustrated online when I share like before and after photos, and especially I know in today's climate we have a lot of ways where you can have very like fast weight loss and different things like that. This has been a 3-year complete like lifestyle change that I have made. So sometimes when I see comments of like, oh, you're probably just on this or on that, I'm like, okay. But this has taken me 3 years to get to where I am. Not only changing my workout routine, adding in walking, changing my diet, learning more about cooking for myself, focusing on quality sleep, focusing on quality supplements in my routine. But it definitely is one of those things of once you start to see the benefits, it makes you want to do it more. And now so many people know about me that I will try to get in walks whenever I can. Even if it's just a short one, I'm always like, I'm gonna go for a walk. Like, do you wanna come for a walk with me? Different things like that. Even I'm someone who travels a lot. When I'm at the airport, I don't just go and like sit down. I'm like, oh, I can just do laps around the airport. So it definitely gave me so much motivation to keep it going, especially when I started to see the results from it, but also how I really started to notice the improvement in my mental health with it also. So I think having that mindset shift and also being grateful for it, you know, being grateful that I am able-bodied to be able to go on these walks every single day, and grateful that I was able to notice the benefits, not only the physical benefits, but definitely the benefits inside, kept me motivated to keep it up. And like I said, this has now been 3 years that I have done 10,000 steps on a pretty much daily basis. The last one that I want to talk about as well, I wanted to put this last because to me, the benefits of walking are definitely what I just was talking about, the mental health and the benefits on the inside. But like I mentioned earlier in the video as well, I definitely started to see the definition in my abs. Like, I remember my friend one day saying like, one day you just strolled in here, Sam, and you had a 6-pack. Like, what happened? And I was like, it wasn't, of course, wasn't something that happened overnight, but definitely as I kept on my walking routine, I noticed the difference in my abs. I noticed the difference in my butt. I noticed the difference in my legs and that sort of thing. And for me, as someone who comes from more of a fitness background, I was really nervous to start to lose some of those and to incorporate just walking, because I thought, I was worried that I was going to gain weight because I was already struggling with weight gain. I was afraid I wasn't going to look strong anymore. But, and I'm not saying that if you walk 10,000 steps a day, you don't do anything else, because that's crazy. You have to do whatever works best for you and also what you enjoy. If you hate walking, I don't recommend trying to walk 10,000 plus steps a day. That's crazy. Like, for me, I don't like running. And for some reason, when I walk, people are like, oh, you should really try running this many miles. And I'm like, I would never keep up with that because it's not something that I enjoy. Like, you know, so if you are someone who've tried yoga and you absolutely hate it, you're probably not going to stick with it even though it has great benefits, because you just don't like it. So I think that's always something to keep in mind. But for me, like I said, every once in a while I would try to do something like a reformer Pilates, going to a Pilates class, doing a yoga workout at home, lifting some weights at home, and that sort of thing. But for me, because I got so when I realized how much I loved walking, and then I realized how much time I was putting into it, you know, 2-3 hours every single day, even though I don't do it all at one time, that's still 3 hours is, you know, a chunk of your day, especially when you do work as well. So for me, it got to a point where I was like, it makes more sense for me to put my time and energy into walking versus also trying to make it to a gym or also trying to make it to a workout class. But I was like, am I going to gain weight, not look as toned, all of those things? And I honestly have been quite shocked at it. But one thing that I do think is important too is to walk with intention. And this is not something that I do on the regular, like I'm not gonna lie to you. And like I said, I'm not a fast walker, I'm not a speed walker, anything like that. Like I walk at a pretty leisurely pace, but every once in a while on my walks, I try to make sure that I have good form, of course, but I try to like pull in my abs, like up, like in and up, I guess is how I would describe it. And that's just something that I try to do. Another thing that I started to incorporate once I started really hitting the 10,000 steps and the 15,000 steps on the regular was I added in ankle weights. I see people that do ankle weights, I see wrist weights, I see people walking. Just the other day I was walking and a woman passed me and she had little dumbbells in her hand and she was doing that while she was walking. I see weighted vests. There's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of up your workout. For me personally, I really loved ankle weights, and I definitely noticed a difference in my butt once I started using ankle weights, and also my abs. My abs, the first time that I used ankle weights and went for a pretty significant walk, my abs, I could feel them. I could feel them. So that is something that I wanted to mention, that I definitely saw those physical changes. But I just wanted to end the video talking about how I started small. I think when we try to make changes in our life, one of the downfalls that we do is we try to make a lot of changes or really big changes all at one time. So back in 2022, when I was diagnosed with adrenal PCOS, one thing that my doctor told me was to stop doing workouts that added more stress to my body. It has to do with your cortisol levels and how they spike when you do things that stress your body, and that includes high intensity cardio and weightlifting. I always try to make it very clear that I am not against high intensity cardio or weightlifting. But if you have something like adrenal PCOS, it is actually going to do the opposite effect that you want, which is why I was continuing to gain weight, even though I was in the gym every single day, sometimes twice a day, because I was constantly spiking my cortisol levels. And they were never, when I got my hormone labs done, my cortisol levels were off the charts high. So that was one of the first things that my doctor suggested when I went through my days with her. She said, you have to stop doing that because you're putting so much stress on your body. Try something low impact instead. To me, I went to walking. I gave myself a 5,000 step count goal, then 7,500, then 10,000, then 13,000, then 15,000. And now my goal is 18,000. Start tracking your steps. Have the pedometer app on your phone. If you have the Apple Watch or something that will track your steps, and see how many that you can get during the day, and then be able to add on from there. But starting small and adding on, I think, is so important. And my reminder as well of when I talked about adrenal PCOS and the hormone labs is to remember that it's all individual in what our needs are. For me, I love walking. One of my best friends loves going to the gym every single day, and I'm in awe of her and what she has been able to achieve, and that's what she loves doing. She has the motivation to keep doing that because she loves it. So whatever it is individually, if you're watching this video, maybe it is walking for you. You have to find what works best for you and what works best for your body. I have another friend who absolutely loves weightlifting. She works with a trainer and lifts weight every single morning at 5 a.m. and her body is amazing. For me, I probably would not have the same results of her because of my adrenal PCOS. So if you are able to, I always just try to sneak this in anywhere I can. If you're able to do something like hormone lab testing, I think especially as females, it is so beneficial to see what's actually going on inside of our bodies, what hormones are higher, lower, where we can work on it. That is something that really, really helped me, because if I didn't have those, I probably would have just kept going to the gym and trying harder and throwing up after my workouts and not being able to digest my food unless I'd gotten those hormone labs done and was able to take those steps. But that is a little bit about my journey with starting to do 10,000 steps every single day. I would love to know if you're on any sort of journey right now, but especially if you are on a walking one. What is your current step count goal? What are you hoping to get it at? And what are some of your best tips for walking daily? Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.